All right. We are live. Hello.
Hello.
So I guess some people found us. Hi, guys. Hopefully we can engage in this little chat. Maybe you can see it. But my guest today is Melody Krell, who I met at the Union of the Unwanted.
Yes.
We both have a lot to say and agreed on a lot of stuff, but I think that we will disagree on a few things too, but in a, well, either a fun-loving, antagonistic way or a totally polite way. I don't know, but I think it's going to be fun. And I thought, Mel, you could start by telling us a little bit about your background and then how you got to where you want to pull back the curtain or interested and what the bigger picture was. Go.
Okay. Basically, I went to NYU. I studied journalism, and then I worked in a bunch of newsrooms, CNN, MTV, Government America. Went back for film. Ended up in LA for 15 years, and my experience in LA is very odd because when my parents live in Palm Beach, kind of near Trump. And every time I went home, I would work at Mar-a-Lago as a concierge or at another place. But I worked at Mar-a-Lago quite a bit. And, I got to know the family pretty well. I answered their phones. so you kind of know a lot. And then I guess 2.5 years ago, I was tipped off by somebody in Palm Beach that told me to check out the 17 map. Now I call it the GOG back channel. And I was looking at it. And then when all the drops came out about Epstein Island, I was like, this is weird. And then when I saw the flight logs, not only did I work for a lot of those people, but I dated a couple. Yes.
Were you 12?
No. I started modeling in New York at 17, if that tells you anything.
Put you in play.
Right, big time, in the same time period. I mean, like I see that Paris Hilton thing that came out, and I'm thinking, yeah, well, I was 14. She was 14, and I was a waitress at Spy Bar on Mercer Street my freshman year at NYU. I was 19, and her and her sister were there. They couldn't have been older than 14.
Wow.
Could not have been. You
might have to. Do you have earbuds? I think we're getting a little feedback.
Do we need that? Okay.
Only because if you can. Only because I hear a little feedback.
No. Let's go. It's probably my window open. I'm so new at this. I'm not.
If you just plug that in, we will have no problems. Now you look like a real radio guy. That's good.
I know. And I didn't even do my hair or makeup. How great.
Yeah. I can't do the baseball hat thing, but New York Yankees hat will always work.
So
yes.
I started looking at it. I was working at Chelsea lately for a while, and I saw a lot of stuff happening there, and other things. And then I saw the Epstein flight logs, and I was like, oh my God, what happened here? And as time went on, not only, I mean, I saw a lot, but when you're in LA, when you're in the business, you're willfully blind because everyone's so desperate, on every level. I don't care how much money you have, how much fame you have, you are still always trying to maintain it. And I started to kind of dig in, and I knew about those Epstein flight logs were about certain weekends where there were satanic rituals. The ones we're seeing are not just flight logs. They're flight logs on certain weekends. And then I started to feel like, oh my God, how is this possible? And then I started digging in, and I like maps. My father was in the Coast Guard for 20 years. My brother-in-law right now is in the Middle East. He's been in the Army for 29 years. He's about to come home, finally, thank God. And it just all kind of started making sense that we were being used. We were being lied to and used. And, you're in LA, there's kind of this thing where it's like, I mean, how many times can I get called back and not get it? And the same exact girl gets every role. You know what I mean? There's clearly a situation in Hollywood that if you don't enter that realm of that you're controllable, you're never going to make it.
DC too, I think.
Oh, for sure. But especially with Hollywood. And then it started to make sense. And I'm older at that point, and I'm going out to like Sky Bar or Hyde or these clubs, and I'm noticing more and more that like things are getting very strange. Like and it was just a slow burn. And then when everything came out about Epstein, I was like, exactly. I saw.
What do you think is really going on with that?
What I really think is going on with that is that in the late 90s, something happened in Hollywood where I don't know if you remember, Michael Ovitz came out and said that like the gay mafia was taking over Hollywood, and you know, blah blah blah. I don't think it was the gay mafia. I think it was the Luciferian satanic cult figures taking over.
Do you think that with Epstein, it is also an element of blackmail? And like I was watching a really disturbing video about like human hunting stories, and the idea was if you couldn't do the things they wanted you to do, they wouldn't have the dirt on you. They would kill you or block you out. But if you could participate, then you were one of them, for better and worse.
Right. Well, they own you. And the other thing is, people think that these late night talk shows, a lot of these people are involved, are entertainment. They're not. You know, if you're not going to go on and spread the message, I mean, we keep seeing the usual suspects. This thing last week with all the naked people coming out and asking to vote, they're all the same usual suspects that we're always seeing. And no, I really started to see, especially when my last year, like the time when I was like ending at Chelsea, and you know, that was E is run by Comcast, NBC, and the Kardashians, the whole thing. It was soulless. It was totally soulless. It was abusive and soulless, and encouraging people to be, you know, it was propping up the worst of humanity, in a sense of, you know, I just started feeling like I had to get out of there. I mean,
Sorry, did you feel I mute you because I still have that feedback? So I got to mute you so that you don't get that, we don't get that circle going. But do you think it's like an eyes wide shut thing where it is the ritual for the ritual's sake or real occultism or whatever? Or do you think it's in service of earthly power, world domination type stuff?
No, I think that it's eyes wide shut. I mean, after I went undergrad, I went to film school, and I loved Stanley Kubrick, and I believe he was murdered, and I always did. And he was trying to, in my opinion, shine the light on, Bohemian Grove. So okay? I don't know how you can watch that. But
Sorry.
at the end,
all right.
But at the end of the day, no, I think that there are people involved in serious offenses against children and humans that are running Hollywood. You know, as a Jew, it was really hard because I saw what happened with Mel Gibson, and you know, you have to kind of step back. He was telling the truth. It was just not coming out right. But
that could actually discredit the truth a little bit if it comes out wrong. But I think, like, you think Stanley Kubrick was killed, and people, when they're older, it's harder to, like, people think he's just old and died. But I think Joan Rivers was killed, and I don't think it's because she said that Michelle Obama was trans. I think it's because she knew Trump was no fool, and she would have defended him. I mean, that's what I think.
Well, yeah, look what happened to Roseanne. You know, Roseanne also, same thing. They use that, racist thing where, like, she didn't even think Valerie Jarrett, who's not Black, who's Persian or, Iranian, but she meant about the plot, whatever the case may be. Hollywood has taken a very ugly turn. And, there's certain people that can still survive, but it's hard. I mean, I also think that a lot of roads lead back to the agency CIA. There's something whack job about what they built in the middle of Century City. If you look from the top, you got all kinds of symbolism and stuff. So
tell me about that. I do know the UN, there's a temple, like a Luciferian temple in the UN.
Right. Well, if you look down from the top, so there was a time when Mike Ovitz owned CAA. It was on the corner of Wilshire and Santa Monica Boulevard. And they built a new location in Century City. And if you look from the top, it's got all kinds of Luciferian like models and stuff. And I did a whole show on they were doing parties about Alice in Wonderland and the White Rabbit. And, and then you look at Alyssa Milano's husband is an agent there who represents Joe Biden, and the whole Me Too movement was hijacked by that agency and it became something else. And when you connect all these people, they connect back to it. And I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying do your own digging. But something nefarious is going on,
Yeah, let's read this. Let's read some of these comments without it being just overlaying and distracting. Let's just take a second. Joe wants to know what happens now with the COVID shutdown of Hollywood, which I'm seeing. Are wrong thinkers being weeded out, or is everybody being taught who is really in power? Yeah, I am curious to know, what do you think is the whole, I mean, there's obviously something to this COVID thing beyond just trying to control a disease. What do you think they're up to?
What I think they're up to is I believe that they knew COVID was coming. The Trump administration, the alliance, which is not just Trump, it's about 15 countries involved in this, and this is all about human trafficking and the international organ, human trafficking, sex trafficking ring that has now replaced oil as the most valuable commodity on the planet. And my opinion is that that port of Long Beach that Bill Clinton gave to the Chinese and Trump took back was the hub. And it's very sad because it's not everyone in Hollywood, but there is a real issue there. And it's funny. I've done some stuff on the adrenochrome addiction, but recently it's been completely scraped from all of Twitter, all of Facebook, all of Google.
You have to tell me more about the adrenochrome thing. What's the evidence there? Tell us what it is and what is the evidence there.
Okay. Well, several years ago, it became normal when I was normal for people to get these blood facials, and these injections of blood. And nobody really, I worked for somebody would get them, and nobody would even ask where this blood was coming from, And then stupidly, and anyone can look it up, she said it on, I hate to say this because everyone loves her, but she said it on Ellen. Sandra Bullock was on Ellen one time, and she asked her how she looks so young, and she said she gets injections in her in her face or whatever. And Ellen laughed and said, from young kids in South Korea. And she was like, no. And it was on Turkish TV. But basically, adrenochrome is it not only stops aging, it reverses aging. Okay, and this is been around since the 30s. It's not new, but it requires to be. They're all saying it's a lie, but it's not. It's real. People do take this, and it has to be harvested while a child's still alive. So,
can't they just use like placentas or something, umbilical blood? Can't they just go for that? I mean,
then you're forgetting that a lot of them are Luciferian. There are people that this is so sad and pathetic because I blindly walked through Hollywood for 15 years, even though it was all around me. And only in retrospect do I realize what I was seeing. But, it turns out that, once you're in the cult, you're in the cult. It's a cult. And, you can call it Scientology, you can call it Kabbalah, you can call it whatever you want. The truth is, at the end of the day, there's a very high level that seems to have taken control of the entire system. And now we're at a point where, everything is upside down because that's the goal. Do I believe that there are eyes wide shut type meetings in Hollywood? Absolutely, I do. And that's just from my own life and experience. But it's not even the point. The point is more that they're all working towards a total control of humanity. They actually believe that they are superior to us. They believe that they are of a different bloodline. And did you see that Paris Hilton thing last week where she was like, she made a whole video about how she was abused at some place in Utah or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, she's coming out ahead of her story. But at the same time, nothing's new about this. It's really about control. Now, who's the master? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Let me ask you this. If, say there are meetings in Hollywood about this, do you feel like it's male, it's exclusively male? Is it exclusively white? Is there anything like that?
No way. No way. No way. One thing I have to say, I mean, I might not make it through tomorrow, but one thing I have to say is there are heroes in Hollywood that are pure evil. Really pure evil. Like, in my opinion, LeBron James is one of them. But there's a lot of people out there that are completely in control of a certain, and they get the young kids. Like, do I believe that Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and all Miley Cyrus were MKUltra? Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been thinking of that too. That I think that they get them, even the political actors. There's some weird stories about some people, even James Comey, Fidel Castro, George Soros. I mean, you can find incidents from their teen years. And then I look at Stacey Abrams and AOC, and they were kind of incubated in these high school programs that are, I was always, I always just took for granted that they said that they were there to help people of color, whatever, identity box you had to check to get into these programs. But now I think it's for control of whatever that demo is.
Right. Right. And it's sad because I actually do know a couple people that grew up in Brentwood, California, that were in one of these families. And, the parents are already in the cult. The children are, they're desensitized. It's like, I don't know if the Nexium story has been totally hidden.
Yes.
But the Nexium story is giant because Nexium ran about 13 schools for preschools for children where their parents, including Penelope Cruz and her husband and a bunch of other Hollywood people, gave their children up at like 2 or 3 years old to go to these rainbow cultural gardens owned by Nexium, which were basically, it seems these kids had a different nanny every day, 7 days a week, that spoke a different language. They were doing experiments on them and all kinds of stuff. It was by this guy, Keith Raniere, who's like clearly a demon. And they paid $100,000 a year to send their kids there. Just like that Provo school that Kat Von D and Paris Hilton now are coming out and saying, that they went to and they were abused there. Also, $30,000 a month.
I'm not, I see what's happening right now, the Great Reset, what's the the way the world is being transformed using the coronavirus as an excuse as so deeply contrary to everything I've even ever thought of human individuals and human society. I mean, I just tweeted, like, I feel like Dolores in Westworld. I just, like, my eyes are open in a totally different way. But I think you and so I'm open to this as an explanation because it seems to be something not in the sort of what you see is what you get realm. But I think that Trump is a player in this game, whether he knows it or not. But do you feel like he is Batman?
I don't feel like he's Batman. I feel like he's a man that evolved over time. And, I worked for them before he was married to Melania. I worked there. I mean, they were dating. But I never saw a family that close in my life. And Ivana is there all the time. Like, these are they're tight. They're good people. None of them drink or do drugs. I never met anyone like, So all I'm saying is I think over time he evolved. And as he had children and then grandchildren, and then I think he saw what was going on with our society in terms of the infiltration of evil, and I think, first of all, I think he knows more than anyone that we're all debt slaves under an illegal system that should be dismantled. Second, I think I know that when he found out about Epstein, not only did he kick him out and go to the cops, but he banned him. And Epstein was never, Palm Beach is a very small town. Epstein was never welcome back anywhere.
Yes. And there was a big thing, about Brad Edwards, who was the lawyer for, I think, Virginia Roberts and some of those people, where he said, and my co-host Binkley came out on our show early on, and it was very convincing. Edwards said Trump was never in on that. The butlers and stuff would say never in on that. And I actually had a better impression of Trump before he was president, because now I feel like he does unnecessarily sow a lot of unrest. The stuff he says is like over the top for himself in the past.
Well, I think he has no control over that. I think that's his personality. I don't think anyone should be surprised. Also, nobody's sticking up for Trump but Trump. And the truth is, you can hate him or like him. This isn't between Trump and Joe Biden. This is between Trump and the UN. Okay. People have to understand Joe Biden is owned and completely compromised by the New World Order, which I fully believe is real. I mean, it is real. I can prove it. But he is a puppet of the UN. And Kamala Harris has been working with the Soros family for 20 years. And the real goal of the UN, which this all comes back to, was the Rockefellers built the UN in a 100-year plan to usurp America, to cede to a one world government. And they were using, in my opinion, and I've done a lot of research, COVID-19, thinking that Hillary was going to win. And they kept going with it regardless. Had Hillary won, there would be 200,000 dead people and people in FEMA camps, in my opinion. But I do believe that Trump, as far as liking him or disliking him, what he's doing is not, he was asked to do it by people that actually care about this country and don't want us to become the whole goal. It's Agenda 2030. I don't know if you know about that. But the whole goal is to cede our sovereignty to a one world order. They're already building their one world order in Kazakhstan. Anyone can look it up. I mean, it's not a joke. And right now, Joe Biden is clearly a puppet. Kamala Harris is bought and paid for by Soros for 20 years.
I will totally concede all of that for sure. I just feel like if Hillary had been elected, people would be in DC tearing down the house for like unnecessary lockdown. So I think that there is, I would argue with that, but I am interested in when you say he was asked by people, who are there actual heroes back there in your opinion? And who are they?
Absolutely. Some of them we can't, we can't talk about, but some of them are General Flynn, Admiral Rogers, you know, people who really are loyal to this country. But even more, they believe that the UN is the, you know, is the New World Order, the Luciferian government. I mean, like I've told everyone, look into the UN, see their spiritual guide is the Lucis Trust. You know, people never heard of that, but it's real. And if you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, and then you realize that the Rockefeller Foundation, Rockefeller University, wrote 10 years ago about the pandemic that was coming in 2020. I mean, you know, this is not, the problem is that we've become total debt slaves and we have no idea. And they keep us so busy just trying to survive, just to pay our bills and stuff with this ridiculous interest that isn't even real. And at the end of the day, everyone just wants to be left alone and to this and that. But we've gotten to a point where no more. Like all these things, all these lockdowns, especially in your state and my state, they're illegal. They're against the Constitution, and they're
Hold on. Sorry, I have to mute. Sorry. So, but the thing about the debt is Trump signed off on this, you know, it's going to be $4 trillion this year and next year in deficit spending. I mean, that's debt.
Mm. Well, what I think you're missing is that there was a, this is hard to explain to people because it doesn't seem real yet, but there was a executive order passed. His second executive order, the first was releasing all the JFK documents. The second one was seizing property and assets of anyone involved in serious human rights and human trafficking. Well, I believe that we have seized the biggest human traffickers in the world were the Bronfman, Rothschild, Vatican, Clinton Foundation. And I not only believe that we seized with the alliance, which is 20 other nations that nobody's talking about yet. I believe that we've been in a war against human trafficking, sex trafficking, and organ trafficking, and which is a $500 billion business. And the Clinton Foundation is very involved, as are the Rothschild, Bronfman, the whole cabal. And I think we seized all of the gold from the Vatican and from the Switzerland, that phony bank of international settlements. And also, as I spoke about the other day, this trust that runs our entire stock market by, you know, the 17 brings up the peso, which is really just the trust that owns the entire stock market, is sitting on $23 quadrillion. And there's homeless people on this planet, you know? So we're talking about hoarding gold and money and then telling everyone else, sorry, people are poor, we got to donate our money. It's really, really sad. But I do believe that the alliance, which includes, I think, Russia, Japan, South Korea, Australia, certainly Brazil, Israel, a bunch of countries. You know, every country has two factions. Every country has the deep state and the good guys. Every country. Israel, maybe the Mossad's bad, but there's a lot of people that are good. Here, the CIA is clearly bad, but there's a lot of good people in every country. But I believe that a lot of gold has been seized because of the raids on human trafficking. So I don't think we're in as much debt as people think.
You do make some excellent points about the magnitude of the financial system versus what we're talking about. And they just print money, which is in itself debt. We actually, if you want to think of it, just how much it takes for a human being to be satisfied materially, not much. I actually think if it were more decentralized, there would be fewer of these problems. That the reason they always ramp it up is because they want that central control. They need everybody plugged in. That is what is so expensive about the whole thing. But I think the thing about the organs, human beings, and trafficking, stuff like that, as maybe the new oil. I never thought of this before, but if you look at the Great Reset, which is the World Economic Forum's kind of what's going to happen after Corona, it's exactly what they were saying would happen anyway with the fourth industrial revolution. They were saying that it is the nexus, the blurring of lines between biology and technology. So I've been focusing on the technology part, but human trafficking, organ stuff, who knows if they don't actually require a biological element?
Well, they do require a biological element. The biggest part of this whole story is that Epstein was the keystone because they trusted somebody outside of their bloodline. But the truth of the matter is that underneath Epstein Island, underneath his place, his ranch, underneath the Rothschild places in upstate California, underneath the Denver airport, these aren't made up stuff. I mean, this isn't made up. They can try to wipe it, but it can't be wiped. The truth is that what really happened, in my opinion, is that at the end of World War II, the Nazis knew that they were losing. And along with George Bush's father and a lot of other people in America, they took Mengele and all these psychopaths in Operation Paperclip, moved them to, Argentina and North America, gave them new identities, and they never stopped these brainwashing, like these different experiments on humans. I firmly believe that what has been going on is still the same people that were involved in the World War II still are trying to take over the world.
Yes, I would say that that's something I think, well, you can see in Bill Gates' approach and even Warren Buffett, like side by side, they have eugenicist backgrounds and they have that goal. And then when you look at the Great Reset, it's Klaus Schwab. I don't know anything about him. There's very little about him, but he started this thing in 50 years ago, 1971. And if you look at what it really is and you peel back the onion on that, what he describes is fascism, really, kind of worldwide fascism.
Right. And we have this new, if you hear any world leader say build back better, you might as well say cede to the UN, and every build back better, which I saw, Biden drop the other day, people have to understand, they want 10 giant 10 giant, this has been planned. This is not new. This has been the goal. But what they'd like to do is for us to cede our sovereignty to the UN. The New York Times doesn't even hide it. They're a lot of these people are guilty of horrible crimes, and they're already caught. When it comes to Carlos Slim that owns the New York Times, or Jeff Zucker, or even that lunatic today that says we should all be locked up, Oberman. These guys are all on these flight logs to these islands. It's not a joke. These are really, really bad people. And they're in the cusp of getting caught. And the problem is build back better means build back to their one world order. This has always been the goal of the UN. The UN was never an ally of freedom. The UN was always about the globalist agenda. Because even if you hear the Pope lately, it's like, what is going on?
What do you think about this? And the thing with the Pope is driving me crazy. I'm Catholic, and I've never even thought really hard about being Catholic before, but I'm just like, geez, this guy. I would say if he's an atheist, that would kind of be your best case scenario.
Yeah, he's a Jesuit, but he was also chosen. Don't forget where he came from, Argentina. So
okay. So here's one other thing: is that I wonder, as these guys get closer to the goal. So you see that the Great Reset they say it was a reaction to the coronavirus, but that same entity did Event 201 and had the fourth industrial revolution before. As they implement this stuff, they are going to point to, like the way they foment, in my opinion, racial unrest. They blame it on Trump. I think every step of the way, they are trying to craft a history that looks back and blames it all on Trump and makes Trump the Hitler. Do you think that's true? Do you think he can avoid it? Is this inevitable? How is he going to beat that if you think he is the good guy?
Okay. Well, what's sad is that Trump's own personality from birth, he's 74 years old. My father is just like Trump. The guy can't keep, it's very embarrassing. I have two sisters, we go out with my dad. We're always like, oh, good God. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, I know this man. He's I'm telling you right now, the picture they're painting of him is not real. This is not somebody who ever party. First of all, he was with Ivana for 25 years. They act like he was some kind of playboy. His 5 years between his marriage of 25 years and Melania, where he married whatever her name is for 10 minutes. For those 5 years. But let me tell you something. Ivana is still very involved. This family are good people. They didn't need this. What I believe happened was that the military that is actually trying to fight back against what Obama and Clinton and the Luciferian New World Order have done to us in the last 15 years. I believe that they did a lot of computing and stuff and realized that of all the people that could run, the only person that could beat Hillary was Trump. I really believe that. And I know at first he didn't want to do it. Why would he do that to his family? And everyone's like, he wants to hold on to it. I'm like, do you know what his real life is like? It's awesome. He doesn't care about power. I think crazy. The truth is, I really believe, like him or hate him, he knows this is between American sovereignty and George Soros, the New World Order, and these lunatics ceding our sovereignty. They want to make Canada, America, and South America one piece. If you look into the New World Order's real plans, it's about 10 continental states ruled by 10 rulers in Kazakhstan. All people have to do is look up Kazakhstan, because the whole Bharat movie was a total psyop.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. But it's what you're saying about Trump, about his personality, about who he is. It's funny because my mother, who's a real hardcore New Yorker, she was not happy about Marla. There's all of that, but she says the exact same things about Trump and his personality. And there are definitely some things that make sense, that fit with that, the whole Brad Edwards and stuff. But I cannot get past that. I feel that his presidency is overseeing this horrible, great transformation, and that it's going to be successful. And how is his combativeness or whatever it is that he's bringing to the table not promoting it? And what is the number one thing that you think he is doing or has done that argues for the idea that he's the good guy?
Well, I think it's already done, first of all. When I go home and go out in Palm Beach and talk to, a lot of them live there. Mnuchin, what's his name? Burr, the guy that looks like a lot of those guys, they've known him for decades. But these are real patriots. I mean, these are people that don't, first of all, I believe a lot of these men are grandfathers that don't want their grandchildren growing up in a country that is run by the UN. And this was the goal. This was a 16-year goal. I can come on next time and tell you about the 16-year plan, because it leaked out of the UN. But the truth is that it was a plan by the Rockefellers. Financed the entire UN, everything with it. They financed everything. They're all the same bloodline people. The goal really was Agenda 2030 is real. That is their goal. And their goal means that we have no sovereignty, that we are just worker bees.
I got to tell you, there was an article in 2016 that the World Economic Forum wrote. Somebody sent me that the headline was, "It's 2030. I have no privacy. I own nothing and I'm happy. And there's this picture of this good looking chick. And I'm thinking, you really need the picture of the chick on the deck of
Send me that.
Wally, you know?
You got to send me that. But, everyone should look it up. Anyone listening to us should look up Agenda 2030, Lucis Trust, the UN. We've been lied to about the UN. The UN was put there for a 100-year plan to make us get to this place. I believe Trump, I'm not sure we're even going to have an election at this point. I mean, I feel like we're in, we're in a really ugly place right now. And, but I think people that are looking at Trump are missing the big picture. Trump really doesn't, I don't think he has, he's the face, I believe, of a coalition of really good people that have been together since JFK Sr. was murdered and assassinated. A lot of these guys that, they're all like putting like Q under contempt and whatever. But a lot of these guys that are involved in this Army of Northern Virginia, its special forces, these are guys that have been around a long time, and they felt like the CIA was fighting against America, and they wanted to expose it a long time ago. These are guys that testify that the CIA had JFK murdered, and RFK and Malcolm, Martin Luther King, So these are guys also that went to Trump and told him that they did their Project Looking Glass and all their stuff. And as far as they were concerned, the only person who could beat Hillary Clinton was Trump, And believe it or not, I don't think he cares if we hate him or like him. I feel like his goal is a little bigger than that, and it's to not allow our country to cede our sovereignty to the UN. What's her name? Kamala. Look at the 25th Amendment thing isn't about Trump. It's about Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that could be. And I will say this, that one thing that you're saying that it does when I look at how all this stuff is moving together, that even the conflict seems to be moving the ball more towards that world government thing. Maybe for right now, it looks like there's a lot of whatever, and I totally agree that Biden, I don't think that he has Alzheimer's or anything. I think he's Vinny the Chin. I think he's completely faking it. Right? Remember that?
Yeah. In his robe.
Yeah, walking down the street. So, but I wonder, there has to be the way I look at it, everybody's in on it. Everybody's in on it. Both sides are totally controlled opposition. But to your point, there has to be, it's hard to believe that everybody is in on it, or that the people who aren't in on it are being completely fooled. It is hard for me to get behind the Trump is a hero thing, but his character did seem okay.
Well, that's the problem. I don't think he's a hero. I don't think he thinks he's a hero. He's an egomaniac. But I will tell you something, and megalomaniac or whatever. I have rarely seen a father. I'm telling you, I worked in their home. I have rarely seen a father that is that in love with his his children. Ivana is still very involved. They're still best friends. When I tell you, this man knew everyone's names, whether you were the concierge or the valet or the gardener. He somehow, I guess he got briefed in the morning. So if it was like your birthday or something, he'd be like, "Happy birthday, Melody." And I'd be like, "What? Oh my God." And then he'd invite our families for lunch, this is not I understand, but it's also he's not doing this for his gain. It's so crazy to think that. And the damage it has done to his family, and especially his younger child, whom he loves so much. I have friends in Palm Beach that say, this is the sweetest kid. He is such a good kid. And what this kid alone, and Melania, who barely speaks, and when she does, she's so nice in real life. And you're just how are they doing this to them?
How is she handling it? Because what happened to her at the RNC that time where they gave her Michelle Obama's speech, what the hell?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I do know though, that she's very genuine and a very good person. And, the problem is Trump is Trump. It's not new. It's not new, but he's not evil. Like, he's not. And he has
I don't think he's evil.
12 grandchildren that he loves. Like, I mean, these grandchildren think he's Santa Claus. So it's like the hard part is, like, people don't get that he has a 15-year-old child. He actually cares about his child's future as much as he cares about our kids' futures.
But are our futures the same? If he is in the super elite, then maybe he's playing a different game.
Yeah, my thinking is that he's dismantling the central banking system and the Rothschild cabal that has been holding us as debt slaves since 1871, when they usurped our Constitution. And I believe that the American people, if they're smart and don't bow to this nonsense, and realize that this is not between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. This is between Donald Trump and the one world order. I mean, 100%. Do you think getting rid of the cops is about getting rid of the cops? Getting rid of the cops is about getting rid of the cops and having the UN come in. And
although I think that I'm a little more cynical. I think they get rid of the cops and they give us a federal police force, which would give politicians at every level kind of only one set of eyes that they needed to pay off. Like, that worries me. Both the Republicans and the Democrats want to replace local cops with their cops. Well, of course, the UN cop would be worse.
No, the truth is, like, this is really about the central bankers that have been running our country since 1871, and none of us know about it. Everyone that listens to this should look up the Act of 1871, because we were totally screwed from that day forward. But what they really, they get rid of the cops is about having the UN cops come in. The whole Joe Biden scenario is about the UN and our sovereignty being ceded. Even the New York Times 2 days ago said we should have the UN come in and deal with the crisis of the election. The only crisis of the election is the cheating on the left. There is no, it's manufactured crisis. There is no crisis.
Well, they're definitely manufacturing it, because they're allowing the mail-in votes to come in after election day.
I mean, can you imagine? What are we dealing with? But the problem is, Trump is so not likable if you hate him. If you don't like him, you hate him.
I gotta say, you're really making inroads in I was completely convinced, and I was never, not in any intention whatsoever of ambushing you or giving you my point of view. I was just interested in what you had to say, because you seem to have a bigger picture idea, like not everybody has. But for me, I knew that we differed on this, that it looks very clear to me that Trump is playing a game, this dialectic thing going back and forth, and that the synthesis is going to be that globalist thing. But that, I have to say, they're in my view, it's so one-sided. It's so, this deal is done. It's so, it's so controlled by everyone. But then when I look at how hard the propaganda is pushed, it doesn't seem like it could be completely controlled that way yet.
No. And the biggest problem is, and I'll say this even in Hollywood, until he ran for president, if Trump showed up at an event in Hollywood, people felt like it was a win. This is not a joke. The man was loved. And I just mean in terms of him, his shtick was loved by Hollywood, loved by DC. And the minute he runs, but the truth is he ran because the military came to him, and we will find this out. And they did all their stuff, and they needed, these are guys that know that JFK was murdered. These are guys that have been in it a long time. The guys that went to Trump and are helping Trump are not people we know about. They're people that want vengeance on the CIA, that totally dismantled the freedoms of our country. And also, I believe this whole debt thing is a joke, because I do believe that we seized a lot of the assets of these families that have been benefiting for decades off of human and child trafficking. And the Epstein files are real bad. And why they're being held back is the corruption of the Southern District of New York and the Northern District of New York. Because I know Claire Bronfman was sentenced this week, but her crimes have yet to be exposed. The Bronfman and Rothschilds and their crimes against humanity, including the Clinton Foundation and all these islands and what happened in Haiti, the people don't know, and our media is not talking about it, and it's sickening. But I believe a lot of their wealth has been seized, and it will go to pay our debt. And I think we're going to have a debt jubilee, in my opinion. And I think that our debt is going to be, if Trump wins, God willing, I think our debt is going to be dissolved with gold, because we seized a lot of gold this year.
Okay, you got to answer this one. But I think you have been answering this one. Hello, I will say it again. I think that Trump was probably a willing participant of the cabal, willing to play the role as their tool to usher in the New World Order and the AI technocracy. And I have to say, that's been my feeling. But the only thing is that your personal testimony that of his character, which is consistent with some of the things that it looks like. I mean, my co-host does fall back on that. He's like, the way those Epstein girls, he was not in bed with Epstein, like figuratively or literally. And right. And he did defend those girls. So, I mean, I have to be a little more open-minded. I'm going to say this happened to me once. I was always a libertarian. I was really trained to be a free market capitalist. And I knew a guy, he was a missionary priest in Peru, and he was a real socialist. And he used to make fun of me. I visited him in Peru, and he's like, "You're just a brainwashed, whatever." So I said, okay, and for like a year or so, I walked around and I just said, you know what, I'm going to pretend like I'm a socialist and just look at the world as a socialist would look at the world, and really accept his premises and see if, maybe they're right. And I mean, I could not get through a year because nothing made sense anymore, just nothing. It just, things didn't, incentives. So now I feel like for me, I don't think, I call it Trump being Batman. I don't think Trump is Batman, but I'm going to renew because you and my mom, both big Trump supporters, I'm gonna renew my kind of open-minded picture of like, is it possible that, see, what you're reminding me of, well, the Smedley Butler thing, he was being recruited by the bad guys, but is it possible that he really was recruited by these guys? Maybe he doesn't even really know the extent of the role they want him to play, the good guys. I'm going to give it the idea that he may be because he's not a sophisticated politician. He's not a mastermind strategist. Nobody thinks that. I think Jeff Zucker created him on The Apprentice, got him elected through CNN, and maybe he's got the plan. But I'm going to try to have a more open mind going forward.
Yeah, Jeff Zucker should have gone to Epstein Island a little more less frequent. But Jeff Zucker is in big trouble. Okay, he's a horrible person, and it'll all come out about all of them. These people working at CNN are pure on demons. And nobody knows the truth about Epstein Island yet. It's got nothing to do with young girls. Nothing. It's got to do with Luciferian satanic ritual weekends that these people attended that are very similar to the movie Eyes Wide Shut, and they all belong in prison. But we'll deal with that later, because the Southern District of New York has been squashing the Epstein story. The Epstein story is about children. It's not about teenage girls.
What do you think about Bill Barr?
I'm so sick of it. I can't stand him. I think that he is compromised. I hope I'm wrong. But to actually think that maybe maybe Joe Biden was not only involved in the coup against Trump and spying on them, but that his son and him are compromised by China and Ukraine, and we're not going to know before the election. It makes me say that this election is faux as it is. I'm very disappointed. No,
I have to tell you this thing about Joe Biden. So I don't really have the same, like, I don't view, I again, where you seem to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you seem to think there's more two sides at different places than I do. But I agree that I would say I admit that my view is a little simplistic in that I feel like we don't even see the layer at which the true power resides. But I will say this about Biden. Biden and his son and his brother also are so in deep. Ukraine, China, those guys, Jim and I think Hunter, were involved with that guy, Stanford, I think his name was. He was bigger than Bernie Madoff. He's in jail for like 138 years for fraud. And those guys had an actual financial company with that guy. And then Devin Archer, Whitey Bulger, Chris Hines, and the Bidens were in on defrauding the IMF and all this stuff through Ukraine. And I actually go down, Peter Schweitzer, I think, wrote a book that should have brought down Biden. I actually think that is why Biden is running, to insulate him from what would have been jail.
100%, 100%. But what's even bigger than that is I also believe Biden is gone. Like, I do not believe that he's like mentally functioning anymore.
Oh.
I don't. I really believe that he's being, first of all, his wife belongs in prison as far as I'm concerned. I mean, what kind of elder abuse?
Who doesn't up there?
Yeah, but like if that was my husband or my father, I mean, how embarrassing. Well, his son's not even showing up to his debates. That should tell you everything you need to know. But no, I mean, they can't. It's too late. It's too late. All I know is that the American people hate Trump or love Trump. A vote for Biden is really a vote for Kamala Harris, who has been financed for the last 20 years by George Soros. She is so in bed with the globalists. She will sell us out overnight to the UN. It is their whole goal. It is their whole goal. The whole pandemic is such. That's got. Throw them this way. Can you throw them over here? No, but the truth is, this isn't about Trump. This isn't about Joe Biden. This is about, does America want to continue along the path? I don't believe Trump even. I first of all, I have a lot of. I honestly believe that we are not going to have an election. So, I mean, and people don't like me saying that, but I don't see how it can. We are seeing so much voter fraud. Joe Biden probably will be indicted. I know he's been indicted in Ukraine. So how
they're
can that
not covering that? They are not. I don't know that he was indicted in Ukraine, but they have not been covering that stuff. But I also wonder if there might be a narrative emerging, whether it be true or false, that President Trump is permanently damaged by COVID or the medicine they gave him, and that he's going to flip the script with Biden as being the guy who's got Alzheimer's. Oops,
no,
sorry.
No, COVID was a pandemic, and it's no deadlier than the flu. So
seems like that to me, just the evidence of my own eyeballs.
Right. I mean, God forbid you actually think for yourself.
Right.
My God. But no, the truth is that you don't have to like Trump to realize that voting for Joe Biden is voting for Kamala Harris, because I believe that Nancy Pelosi's move last week about the 25th Amendment and having a commission, it's too late to have it about Trump. This is about she thinks they're going to win, and it's about removing Biden.
Before the inauguration.
And that Kamala Harris scares the shit out of me. I was bullied as a little girl. Like, I was not normal. I like theater. I was a dancer. I was kind of did my own thing. I was very bullied. I see her as the meanest bully in high school. I've never seen a woman that I feel is, even she, to me, she's more scary than Hillary Clinton.
Have you heard my I don't know if you've heard of this, but my co-host Brad Binkley, who I do on my show, which is the Propaganda Report, he unearthed all this stuff about her and the Knights Templar in California. You heard about this stuff?
Oh yes, I have, about her Masonic
Yes.
her Masonic army. Well,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Well, just last week, thank God you brought it up before we go, because just last week I heard that Satan himself, who I think is LeBron James, he announced that he has 10,000 people strong in California that are going to show up on election night, and they're going to watch the polls. Guess who they are? The Masonic army, the Masonic police force.
The police. That's what it was.
And that guy worked in her office. Are you telling me that she's not a Luciferian New World Order?
But the witness said that there was a contract out on his life and he turned up dead. Did you hear about that guy? One of the guys in the outfit, but it was like a couple of years ago, but he's just wiped off the face of the earth. There's a picture of that guy who's dead, died of a heart attack, supposedly like the day after he said he was going to die, the day before he was supposed to be the witness. There's a picture of him, I think, with Bill Clinton, with all these guys, high level. I'll send you the link.
No wonder Sam Tripoli was like, you gotta meet Monica. You and Monica gotta talk. No, last week I was on a show and everyone was trying to be positive, and I'm like, guys, LeBron James is warning us that they have their Masonic, like OTO, that's their thing, like Templar, whatever.
Yeah.
This is big out there, and they've infiltrated the gangs in California.
Oh wow, that would make so much sense.
And then also, what I've been asking people is, who did they let out of prison? Because they didn't let out the elderly, and they didn't let out the low crimes. Are they letting out people that they already indoctrinated? And then all those guns they found behind Jay-Z's house in remember, in the Getty Mansion in Bel Air a couple years ago? The LAPD found 1,000 unregistered guns in a home owned by the Gettys.
Well, do you know the story of Jeffrey Allen Lash, who was in the Pacific Palisades, and they found thousands upon thousands of guns? And this was a guy who had, and they were all registered, which at that level is not possible in California. The just laws would not ever, you couldn't do that. Had amphibious vehicles that were registered, and he personally claimed to be a hybrid human being with an alien, but it is the craziest story. And I would never give any credence to that kind of stuff at all, but the story was so inexplicable on any other level.
Forget, but I'm telling you, a year ago, there's a house behind Jay-Z's house in Bel Air that was busted, and they had 1,000 unregistered guns, and it turned out it was owned by the Getty mistress. And a year ago, and a friend of mine told me that it's been under the radar, but a ship came in to the harbor, to Long Beach port, with like all filled with weapons from China. So who was let out of prison in California?
Right, that's too scary to end with.
Okay, but that Masonic thing that you're talking about, I did a whole show on it last week. I was like, what is going on? No, I think they've all been seized. We're winning. I'm telling you right now, the good guys are winning. Who are the good guys is the question. The good guys
How do we help them?
But the good guys are way above Trump. Okay, it's got very little to do with Trump, in my opinion. Trump is the face. The reason Trump's there is because they did a lot of, the military is way more advanced. They figured that Trump was the only person that could beat Hillary. And if you think about it in terms of popularity and the whole thing, like the whole thing. Anyway, the point is, we are winning. And there have been, I was real pissed because I'm doing a show tomorrow about human trafficking and adrenochrome and stuff. And I go on Twitter, #Adrenochrome, everything's gone. Everything's gone.
Oh, because of the Q stuff. Like I think they're taking stuff like Save the Children, like stuff that should be.
But what kind of psychopaths take down something that is clearly real and scary and about kids? So I think we're winning, but I think this week's going to be very, I think I'll see you on Monday night, but I think this week is going to be very eye-opening. I do.
All right, man. I hope you're right. I would love for there to be any good guy. I don't care what his ideology is. I don't care. Right now, I'm looking at a cyborg Satan future. Like, I just am hoping There's something other than that, something other
There
than
it is.
peel away the
There
skin
it is.
and there's a metal skeleton underneath.
People tell me stuff I can't really say, and I don't want to look like that, but I do believe we're winning, and I do believe you shouldn't worry about our debt
All
at
right,
all.
well, I'm at the point where I just want to go to church, and that is a first in my entire life, and it happens to be when I can't go, so something's
You
happening.
can. Well, you know what? When you can again, then you'll go just because you can.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, I'm sure it's twisted up in there somewhere. I think I'll probably hit the bars if they open first. We'll see.
Right. Well,
But
have a
hey,
drink and then go.
we'll
I'll
see you at the
see.
Union of the Unwanted. So much fun. Thanks for
Yay! I
coming
love
on now.
you.
All
Have a
right,
good
bye,
one.
babe.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming, guys.